Docking request accepted.
Good morning, New Eden. Today is December 8th, 2024, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have a very special interview that we're doing with Gothikk. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Great. So, we normally kind of just jump right into, let's hear the story of, and is your character name Gothikk?
Yeah, Gothikk, I think like Urksy is the generated last name, but Gothikk is the first name, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, tell us the story about Gothikk.
Sure. So I first knew about Eve, like we had mentioned earlier, like I was 13, so it would have been like 2002, 2003. I was into like Counter-Strike, but I wasn't a big gamer. My dad was an engineer, so he was around nerds all day, and came home one day and installed, I don't know if it was the beta or like a trial or something.
Yeah,
of
2003
Eve.
would be right around if it was past May, then it would have been the actual live game. Before that, it would probably been the beta. In 2002, it might even been like the alpha. It all depends.
But he put it on my computer, and I logged in. I played for like an hour. I mean, it was cool being in a spaceship. I was like, what the hell is this? What am I supposed to do? And
I like spaceships, but yeah, no, I was 19 and I got the same exact, I had the same exact thing happen to me.
Yeah, I was like, what am I supposed to be doing here?
My dad didn't install it for me, but I had a buddy that was like, we were all checking out all the MMORPGs out there because there was a bunch of beta tests going on at that time.
Right.
Because it was like the birthing time of this, and if you were poor, or young, 19 years old, 13 years old, get into a beta that's free, and you can go and play it type kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But you kind of right off the bat, you were like, nah.
Yeah, I was like, this is not. The most gaming I really did then was like Counter-Strike with my buddies. Those were the early like 1.3, 1.5 days. So. I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm in a spaceship, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So, logged out. That was it. And then like 2000, and if I start to ramble like I'm a DM, just reel me back in. But 2000.
No, I like the rambling. Please do.
2007. I was briefly in college, and like World of Warcraft was blowing up then, and so my roommate was really into it, and so he got me to install it, and I played, and it was cool. He wanted me to raid with him, and that was fine. But what I really liked was the PvP aspect, and I guess that just comes from playing FPSs all the time.
Dude, this is so cool because that's what kind of happened to me. Like, I feel like it just is a little bit later because it was like 2005 that I like looked at World of Warcraft, and I was like, okay, let's take a look here and see. Everybody's all the rave about this. I got up to like level 29. I got to level 30 in the game. And I got to level 29. I was like, I'm gonna PvP and beat the shit out of people. This is like epic. This is like fun. and I didn't do anything beyond that to get me another level, but just through PvP I leveled up to level 30, and as soon as I hit level 30 it was
Oh
like,
yeah,
okay, 9
bottom
more
of the totem pole
levels
again.
before I
Yeah.
can do the PvP again, and I was like, I don't want to do all of that. Like, so
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like
like,
back in the
what
slow
else can I
times.
do?
Right, yeah, I mean, PvP was it, we did the raiding and like that was cool, but you can only, wipe on a raid so many times before you're like, the same guy keeps fucking this. Can I cuss? I can cuss, yeah.
Yeah,
Keeps fucking this up. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But PvP was what I liked. Um, and so then, I was looking at my employment history, and so I had thought that I had started in 2013 because I was in the army then, and there was a guy in my unit who played. But I actually made my first character, who was not Gothikk. It's just a auto name, in 2011. So I guess at some point somebody had convinced me to, to do something with it. But I'd always known about Eve, from playing it back in the day, and then, just reading about games. You hear about the big fights and stuff. So
it's one of the ones that does actually hit the news,
Yeah.
just as hard as World of Warcraft, because it's always talking about that real life cash, like element of like what was lost, or stolen.
Yeah.
Before.
Right. And I mean, the fights, I mean, they're awesome. Tie-dye sucks, but watching the fights, especially, I'd watch them on YouTube and it was cool to see. So, I guess I made this character in 2011, but 2013, I kind of like the guy my buddy in the army, was like, oh, we should all play. We should all play. And so I installed it and kind of dicked around a little bit. But it still just didn't grab me. I was also just too busy then to really dive deep into it like he was. So then, but like every year I would get a bug up my butt about like, oh, I'm going to play this game. I'd still watch a video or something. I'd be like, I want to play. And then I'd sit there and get in my little Corvette and be like, oh, I don't want to fly this thing. I want to fly something better. But it just never really sunk its teeth into me. And then in 2020, when everybody was in lockdown, I got into Star Citizen, and because I always liked sci-fi and
I'm sorry.
Star Citizen. Yeah, well, I didn't know any better back then, but and it really, there was Star Citizen, you had Eve, and you had Elite Dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the big, as far as I was concerned,
those
the
are
big
the
three.
big 3 MMOs like that really are, space oriented.
Yeah,
and really kind
yeah.
of. Eve is the only one though that gave like it is the only MMO out there that is like one world. Like that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Besides like
Eve's
other reasons why there are 2 worlds on Eve, but
right.
technically
Yeah.
there's 1 world.
Yeah, and I mean, Eve is the only one that does, what it does. But so I was playing Star Citizen, and I was involved with a group called Skunk Works, and people would always talk about Eve there. I guess a lot of them used to play Eve. And so, I played Star Citizen for a couple years. And then the polish wore off. You start seeing the cracks and everything. I was like, I'm done with this game, man. But I still wanted to play a space game. Elite Dangerous didn't do it. And so all that was left was Eve. And so 2023, I got logged back into this character. And, I had no idea what I was doing. And I guess I spent the million free skill points on random shit. I don't know what it was. I don't know where they went. But I saw this video on, I think it was like a Wingspan video where they're doing the stealth bombing stuff. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Because in Star Citizen, I like the stealth bomber ship. I was like, I can do it in Eve. Perfect. Not knowing that like a solo Manticore is not going to do much, but whatever. So I remade, Gothikk, the character I'm on now, and I think I was reading Reddit, and somebody had said, like, saw 2 things. It was like, faction warfare is where you need to be, and low sec is where all the action is. And I was like, well, I like PvP. That's what I want. So I like looked up the skills I needed to fly a stealth bomber, added them to my skill queue. Like, used my million free skill points just to do those. Like, I didn't know, there's like the magic, what do they say, like the magic 13 or... Yep. I didn't give a shit about any of that. Yes, something like that. But I didn't care about that. I just wanted to stealth bomber. I wanted to shoot torpedoes. And so that's, I bought skill injectors to like get into this stupid Manticore, and was like, well, now what? Like, now what do I do with this thing? And so I got blown up a bunch of times, and I was like, okay, well, I need to figure something else out. So I'm just gonna go mine ice. Like I'm just gonna go sit out on an ice belt somewhere and figure this game out. I was still trying to do faction warfare. I had enlisted with Caldari, and I had joined a group. I don't even know if they're still around now, but I had joined a Caldari faction warfare group, and nothing really happened. I don't know. There was some like inner something they were trying to restructure or something, but for a new player, I was like, this ain't it. And so I'm out mining, and one day this guy, his name was proclaimed heretic, we all just called him Pro. He's out in an orca, and he's got one of his buddies with him in like a retriever or something, mining the ice belt I was always in. And he's like, hey man, you can join our fleet for the boosts if you want. And I'm like, I don't even know what boosts are. What the hell are you talking about? Because I've been solo. I've always been a solo player for most of my stuff. And so he explained it to me, and he's like, so you're actually new. This isn't just like the question I always get, like, you're actually new. Like, this isn't an alt or anything.
I'm totally new to the game. If you could you teach me? By the way, do you have like access? I just need access to like all of your hangars. And wallet and just
right. Can you just pop out of your ship real quick? I want to test fly it.
Yeah, it'd be super cool. I'm just a noob.
Yeah, I don't know anything, but and so he explained to me, the basic, like what boosts were and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And he was like asking about the corp I was in, and I was like, I don't know, they haven't really done anything. He was like, well, we're starting a corp, if you want to. It's me and my buddy Cal, I think was his character's name. It's just me and him, but we're trying to do something with it. If you want to join us. I said, sure. Well, I got nothing else to lose. So I joined them, and I think for the next week and a half, we would just mine, and they would just kind of teach me this and that, how to restructure my skill plan, things I should be adding to my skill plan. They were baffled why all I could do was use torpedoes, but. So I think after about a week and a half, they decided we're going to nullsec. I was like, what the hell's nullsec? And he's like, oh, well, that's where, real Eve is played. And I was like, oh, well, all right, well, let's go. I was like, what do I need to do? And he's like, oh, just get in a shuttle and, meet us in this system at the station. We've got ships you can use. You can't fly much anyway, so it's not a big deal.
Stealth bomber, go.
Yeah. And so I met him out there, and so we joined. The corp I was in was Okunda Manufacturing Group, and we joined We the Foundation, which was part of the Southeast Alliance in MNC. And so our whole thing was just making fuel blocks, and so it was like a 9-to-5 job, man. Like I work from home, so I'd be like working on the main monitor, and then on the side monitor I've got Eve just mining ice, and. So that's what I did, man. And I think the first, I have to look it up. I don't think we were with them super long, but time is kind of weird, so who knows? But
it wasn't that long. Only 2 years. No.
Right? Yeah. How long were we with them? Let's see. We were with We the Foundation. Oh shit! It was 4 months. Oh, okay. So in that 4 months, I think I tried to do a little PvP. I think at some point I got my first solo kill, and it was this venture mining in high sec, or no, wouldn't have been high sec. I guess it would have been low sec. Some venture. I managed to track him down and got him with my Manticore. And if you look him up, because I looked it up the other day, that dude never played again. I guess he was just fuck this. No, but I still didn't do much PvP, which was weird for me because
or maybe they just never PvP'd again.
Well, they also never got blown up again. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
He became a station trader.
Yeah, he just learned you to be the best there is.
Yeah,
your encounter inspired him.
He's the next great Pyfa warrior.
Yeah, he's probably gone. Way to go.
Yeah. It's my fault. I know. Some new player was like, this game sucks. But yes, I mean, we're just making fuel blocks, and for 4 months I don't think I really joined any fleets, to be honest with you. And then I don't know what happened. There was some sort of disagreement or something between our CEO and some of the leadership with We the Foundation or something. I don't really know what happened, but he one day was like, "All right, we're leaving them, and we're going 3 jumps away to join Literally Triggered, which was another group in the southeast that was allied with We the Foundation, but I don't know. I guess he liked them better, so we joined them." And and finally I got to do some PvP because We the Foundation, like, I also didn't know what I was looking for, but there weren't a lot of fleet things. But once we got to Literally Triggered, like, I finally, like, there was the ping, right? Like, my first fleet, they're like, we're going, and like I was like, what the hell are we flying? They're like Sleipnirs. I was like, I definitely can't fly that. I can't even fly a cane at this point. And they're like, well, just grab something. So I think I got like a MOA with railguns because they're flying arty Sleipnirs. So I got in a MOA with railguns and was just like following them along in this fleet, shooting at a bunch of dreads. There was like a Chamash and a bunch of Zerns and all kinds of shit. And I mean, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Um, and that was it, man. Like, once I got that first PvP, I was like, okay, now I see why people play the game.
Did
And
you get the
even if,
shakes? The
dude, I did. You know why? Because I had the MOA and everybody else was micro warp drive, and I was afterburner. I didn't even know what the difference
oh
was.
no! Yeah.
So everybody's like way over here, and I'm like way back here, and I got the shakes because, like, I'm being chased, man. Like, everybody's chasing me, and I obviously can't keep up with the rest of them. But I think I ended up just self-destructing because it was like so many jumps, and I was like, I'm not. This is a MOA. I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna blow up. Um, but yeah, I mean, so we were with them until like the fall of the Southeast. I think it was a CSM member, Amelia something. Um, was just blowing through the Southeast, man, just taking people out, which, fair play. And but something snapped with the leadership of Eltrig, and like one day we're in a fleet to defend, and I guess we were losing. I wasn't on the fleet, but like we were losing. One of my buddies was, and like the leader, man, just he's like, "Fuck this!" Like, start shooting We the Foundation, and so like it started this like inner alliance war between the two groups, and like it was like a failscape, man. Everything just started snowballing, and eventually, like, our CEO was like, "All right, dudes, we're leaving," and so we went to Dracaris, and but my CEO at that time, like, he had personal stuff going on, and so he had to take time away from the game, which is fine. But the directors that he had appointed, like, weren't picking up, the slack. And so, in Indie Corp, like, we get paid by, the buybacks and the PI and all the stuff we're bringing in to make these fuel blocks. And nobody was getting paid out. So, like, people were like, what the fuck am I, what am I doing here if I'm not getting paid? And so people started leaving until it was just, me and 2 other guys. And I think one of them for sure went to Goons, and he's still there. Still talk to him. The other guy, he's had a lot of characters because he's a big fan of buying Chinese ISK and then getting caught by CCP all the time. So he just blows through characters.
Why don't you just buy like legal ISK? Like,
yeah, I know. It's not that much. It's about the same price. Yeah, and so he's just like, he's constantly like, "Oh, this is my new guy." I'm like, dude, what? Like, the money you've spent, because he'll like skill inject, right? He'll buy like enough skill injectors for 90 million skill points or whatever. I'm like, dude, like, the money you spent on that, you could have just bought the real stuff and then still had the same character. But
yeah, like, yeah, like, it's what, I guess, whatever.
It works for him.
Yep. Because, people do what they do. You can't stop them. You can only advise them.
Yeah, but it's but yeah, so I was with Dracaris for, I don't know, not that long, and it wasn't working out. I mean, A, the CEO wasn't there. B, like, they're primarily Chinese organization, and the fleets I would go on, man, I mean, not a word of English was being spoken in those. And like, for somebody who already, like, I already don't know what I'm doing in this game, and now I don't understand what you're saying. Like, I'm out, dude. And so that was when I went to Init. I went to, you met Como, his group, Applied Anarchy. And I was with them for a long time. With them now again. Como's, the corp is kind of like, if you ever had parents that were like, my door's always open. Like you can go out and fuck up and you can come back home. Like that's how Como runs the group. So, I've left a couple times and done other things and then come back. Um,
That's the best way to
but
handle a corporation, especially,
yeah,
it's one of those things where a lot of corporations, I think, really fail when they're like, we do everything.
yeah,
Like it's like, no, you do something, and if you do something and you don't do other things, unless you like, that's one of the nice things about joining the Imperium or some other bigger groups and stuff like that, though, is usually there is like a sig that you can kind of join that's, maybe your
yeah,
corp doesn't do that specifically, but because your alliance does, that gives you openings. It is one of the things that also makes it harder to be like, besides how cool the leadership is, that's about the only thing that matters when it comes to like and ability to get into a
right,
corporation. It's like, but you want
yeah,
to join in it, to a certain degree, and then the corporation that you join underneath that becomes less important if you're thinking
yeah,
on the I just want to join SIGs. But it
right,
should be really important on who you pick for your corporation, because cool
yeah, for
leadership,
sure.
interesting, good setups, corporations who are actually working with their members and not just relying on the alliance to do all the hefty lifting.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, when I joined Init the first time, I think it was by chance that I came to Applied Anarchy. Like I looked up, I don't remember what I searched, but that was the first ad that popped up was Applied Anarchies. I don't even know if they were recruiting. It was an old ad, I think. And I hopped into Discord and met with them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't care that you don't know what you're doing. Come on." And so when I was with Init, like the big stretch, yeah, I joined all the SIGs and it was cool, like getting to do like the blop stuff and whaling and all that. But I kind of got to a point where like it was getting really boring, just waiting for pings. And I still did faction warfare. I sucked. I mean, I still suck, but I sucked even more back then. Um, I still did faction warfare, especially when Havoc came out, because none of my tabletop group is watching this, but I have a thing for. I love space pirates, and so when they made that a faction, I was like, easy choice to go do that in faction warfare. But yeah, I was doing all the SIGs, and but I was tired of waiting on pings. I was tired of reffing structures, and I kind of got like realized that like I don't really know like how to actually play the game. Like I know how to follow a guy and push F1 and all of that, but
Yeah,
like as
there's a
far as
much deeper game in
yeah,
here. And I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the things that I find was interesting, though, that because I think, even going and opening it up to like going down to faction warfares and getting involved in solo or small game kind of action and stuff. But there's also another part of Eve of like the exploration in this game that's like huge. And I had a friend take me on that, and I was so in depth into the faction warfare aspect of the game for the last few years, I totally forgot about how cool it is to go out, take a filament, go to 0.0, hack a whole bunch of sites underneath the nose of somebody, and then jump out before the fleet can gather to kill you, type thing.
yeah, yeah. It's I'm terrible at exploration, but I can for sure see what you're saying. I mean, I've done the same with like gas mining, like hop into a wormhole and
Yeah, yeah.
ninja huff and then get out of there before I get zapped by somebody. Um, but yeah, I mean, the game has so much, there's so many levels to it. Um,
So you came in
but
and jumped into faction warfare then, right? And that was
yes, yeah, I'd always dabbled, but it was I think August of this year. I kind of like I had reffed my last structure, and I was like, you know what, like. I told Como, I was like, it's that time again, man. Because I had left a couple months ago for like a week, or a couple months prior to that for like a week to go try a Pochfin group. And that wasn't the move. But, I was like, hey, man, I'm going to go try something else. He's like, all right, man, door's always open. And so I went and joined a group called Meta Reloaded. They're an Amar faction warfare group, pretty like a small gang focused group. Because that's, I figured if anybody knows how to fly their ships, it's the guys going out with 7 dudes and fighting against 20. And so I joined them, and, they really took me under their wing and taught me, things that I'd been missing out on for 8 months prior to that or whatever. And so I was in the Amar faction space for from August till the end of October. And the problem I was having was of this year was that just the time zone difference. I was always catching like the tail end of fleets. So it was like, they'd been out for 3, but I'd only been with them for 1. And I was like, man, this is fun, but like, I want more.
Right, you want
Um,
you want to be
yeah,
on.
like,
You got to find it. That is one thing that is really interesting. One thing that I'm trying to focus even my own corporation around is this idea that you've got to set down. This is when you do fleets, and if you don't do fleets if you don't do this time zone and this time for the you can have depends on how big your group is. You can now start
right.
expanding, but you need to have a dedicated activity that happens that you point out to be these are the activities, these are the times for them.
Yeah.
If you can't do these times, then you need to look for somebody who does do these times.
Right.
Or do
Right.
your time. What time do
Yeah.
you play? And some people are like, I play all the time. It's like, all right,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
then you're good, But some people are like, I can play on Wednesday from 9 p.m. to midnight. That's
it.
3 hours.
Yeah.
What are you doing during that 3 hours? And I think that it's interesting because 0.0 groups do rely a little bit more, I think, on just random pings because everything just kind of happens randomly. But there is scheduled events that happen.
Yeah.
And so always checking to see what your scheduled events are, and that's where I think that you can pick up as a corporation to be really important on joining a corporation that has scheduled events during your time. Not just looking for an alliance that has scheduled events during your time. Make sure you're working with your corporation that is running that event.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you are jumping over to faction warfare and jumping into the Amar and everything.
I left Metallurgic, and so many were like, "Oh, we're always active."
Oh no, I think we had a
hiccup.
A little hiccup there in the internets. So you were talking about you were with the Amar, but you were just catching the tail end of their fleets.
Yeah. There was a lot of not all the time, but I've got kids and stuff, so like I can't be on. I usually get on after they go to bed, or I'm playing during the workday. Because I know my boss isn't watching this, but yeah, and so I kind of got tired, but it was just like it kind of sucked. And the thing about the Minmatar, and maybe you feel that being Galente, like the thing about the Minmatar and Amar Warzone is like Minmil is so strong, like I mean numbers wise compared to Amar, that it was so hard to like do solo anything without getting blobbed. Which, I don't mind taking on a, 1v2, 1v3, but it was like, dude, I'd get grappled, I'd get scrammed, and then there's like 15 dudes all would warp in. I was like, well, I can't do shit against that now. And so, I ended up leaving them, and I just kind of bounced around for a little bit.
I don't know, real quick, Povo does did kind of also said that there's a couple things here, that one, that they felt that it's nice to hear that some people are struggling with Eve, but more important, and to be honest, that's everybody's tales. I feel like if you go through anybody with Eve, the beginning is struggle, and if you don't struggle in the beginning, it's because you had a perfect mentor, and that's okay. Some people have perfect mentors, or even just a good mentor, I guess. You don't need to be perfect, but Povo does say that Minmil here, no way Minmil has more numbers. We have at least 10, at least at all times. We are just better in Minmil.
Hey, however you want to play it, man. Whatever you want to. That's.
I'm just saying that is one of the things that I would actually like to point out, though, is that everybody does feel outnumbered depending on where you are and what you're doing and what time zone that you're in. It all depends.
For sure. I mean,
unless you're somebody that says that like I'm watching the Warzone 24/7 and I know that like only Minmil runs like the entire 24/7 or only that's not the case ever. There's a ebb and wane of when you play, and it sounds like you were at a time in a place where you felt heavily outnumbered by Minmil.
Yeah, and I will say Minmil fleet. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The breakdown behind the scenes of Minmil. I've been with most of the factions. Minmil's the only one I haven't been with. Minmil is much more, I'd say, coordinated, maybe, or better about like being there in force. It's at least that's what it seemed to me. But hey, I mean, everybody feels outnumbered at all times, so who knows? It's Eve.
Yeah, and there's, like a difference between, roaming and gate camping and, traveling and sitting and holding your systems and just, piling up together. It also matters on who you are when you're in these militias, because there isn't one militia group and there isn't just one Discord. Like any militia,
Right.
I know that, I mean, at least for the Galente, I can speak for sure, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for this in general, is that if you go to any a faction warfare group, you're going to have multiple discords that you're going to want to join
Yeah.
because of all the different groups that are running all the different activities that don't
Right.
want to be in one single discord run by this group or whatever.
Right.
Like there's usually like the min-mill discord, but then there'll be this alliance's discord and this alliance's discord and this they run all of their stuff here, and these are open to the Galente or to the to the general militia or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so what happened after the Amar?
So after the Amar, I kind of just bounced around. Kind of like spent like 4 weeks trying to figure out where I wanted to go. I joined a couple different groups, but none of them really worked out. Not worked out, just didn't feel the click, I guess, that I was kind of hoping for. And so I don't remember, I was in a group, and this was, 12 days ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. I was in a small, like, null group that were in Cloud Ring, and just kind of helping them. Like, they were brand new, kind of just, join them to try something new, I was helping, like, recruit with it, and running some, like, small, 3-man fleets just to kind of fly around and stuff. But I was still doing faction warfare because we were so close to the Calgal Warfront. I mean, it was like 3 jumps from our home system. So I was still doing that, and even now I'm still in low sec most of the time. But one of the directors with Applied Anarchy had messaged me while I was with them, and he's like, "Hey man, like, init's resetting neutrals," because that was my thing. Is I like being able to shoot a lot of people. I'm a PvP guy. Yeah. And, that was the one thing that drove me nuts about being in Init, was being blue with freaking half the map. And so he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, man, we're resetting. Como wants to do faction warfare. Your name came up because you've been doing faction warfare, so much for the past couple months. Do you want to come on as, I don't know, I don't know what my title is, but help FC, the guys wanting to get into faction warfare and kind of show them what to do and, how it works versus being in, the nullsec biting arena." And I said, "You know what? Yeah, I'll give it a shot, and we'll see what happens." And so I'm back with Como, back with Applied Anarchy. Haven't really been like, I moved some of my stuff into their home system in Fountain, but I mean, my whole since then has just been in low sec into Caldari, Galente Warfront. Just doing that with them.
So have you sided with any specific faction for the faction warfare? Because I know Init allows for you guys to do enlistment. So is there restrictions that you're putting on people? Is there anything that is it just encouragement, or is there actually a lockdown of this is specifically the factions you join?
They all went Caldari. I was not involved in the vote, but they all picked Caldari. I think because they wanted to keep it easy with Jita. But I was Caldari, but with the Blood Brawl, I'm a space pirate at heart, so I'm with Guristas right now.
Okay.
So
Does that cause any problems for you when you're trying to gather up people and stuff like that and do stuff in faction warfare?
No, we just shoot Galente. Easy enough. But
okay, so even though you're in Guristas, you'll be running and doing stuff with the Caldari and joining up and your focus is not the PvE activities but the PvP activities.
Yeah, I
Fighting
mean,
Valente.
all I'm here to do is PvP. I'll probably, who knows? I may switch back to Caldari. The thing that just, I hate the time gate, man. So it's like if I drop it, I gotta wait a day before I can go back out there and join another group. The 24 hours that you gotta wait after you drop enlistment. Um, so I'm locked in right now with Guristas, but I imagine if they keep up with faction warfare, I'll probably swap back over to Caldari. Unless they get tired of that, and we'll just see.
Cool. So what are some of the aspects of faction warfare that you're really liking? So it sounds like if you're going to be doing PvP, you're going to be fighting in like Aediles, Nenemelia, like away from the insurgency that is normally going on. Like this insurgency has definitely come around to the front lines a lot more, but it sounds like you're not chasing the insurgency. You're using
No,
the war deck as an opportunity to fight in low sec. What are some of
exactly.
the like things that you do if you're not doing the PvE aspect of it? Are you using any of that in order to get the PvP that you're looking for?
I mean, I'll go to I no, I mean, I don't really do like the LP farm or anything. Like, I don't sit there and just sit on plexes for LP. The only reason I go to a plex is to find a fight or try and run from a fight, and recover for a minute. I'll go to the insurgency, but only so that I can do lame shit like drop bubbles and camp the bubbles. I have a bunch of LP. I've never spent it. It just sits in my little wallet because I'm really just there to PvP.
What kind of
Um,
the focus of your PvP? Is it more of like a roaming kind of setup, or are you gate camping, or what are you using that makes faction warfare the place that you want to be for your PvP? Like, why not go to another place in 0.0, do the same thing, and not have to worry about gate guns, not have to worry about pirate status, or any kind of war decking or anything like that? Like,
um,
what makes faction warfare appealing for you mechanically?
I mean, well, mechanically, it is the fact that I don't have to deal with some of the null sec stuff. Um, like I don't really care for bubbles. I mean, they're useful, but like I think people get over reliant on them. I especially noticed that once I left null sec and went to low sec, where you can't drop a bubble on everything, and you have to actually take tackle. Like people get over reliant on bubbles. So that kind of, now that I've been away from it and like I try and stay away from it because it just makes it too, you get kind of lazy when you can just drop a bubble and nobody can warp out of it. Um, I don't have a like great answer. I like, the role, not the role play, but like the factions fighting the factions. And I think the story of it's kind of cool.
Would you say also like the idea of a easy forever war non like a like because there's a difference between when like there's a war that happens that's and enemies in 0.0 are like enemies, like they
Yeah.
hate each other for a reason, like because they other people have the other side has stole from them, has like like dissolved corporations, wiped out entire alliances, like have done shit to each other, that is on like the next level of like like personal, like it's gotten really personal.
Yeah.
Faction warfare is not personal at all. Like I can sit down and have a beer with any Kaldari and be happy to hang out with them,
That's
because I'm gonna be in this fight forever. I've seen groups come in and out of faction warfare, and it's interesting to see them come in and they're like, "Let's win the war," and it's
There's no war to
like
win really.
what are you do like what
What
do you
war are you
mean,
winning?
what are we gonna how, like explain to me what you mean by winning the war. Like
Right.
forever, like if the entire map is 100% our color, is that winning to you? Because the war is not
Yeah.
over. Like we're not
Right.
we're like, I guess you could say we're winning the war, but we can't win the war,
Right.
like it's supposed to be a forever war. And if and I really like what's become now, which is that there's kind of a balance that comes out of this to a certain degree. Even when you're outnumbered and stuff like that, it's hard to control almost all of the wars. As soon as you start
Right.
doing that, it just falls back to close to 50%, like 30, 70, and then it hovers, trying to battle up from there, no matter how bad the other side is. And system control doesn't matter. Once again, it's not,
Right.
is that a good thing or a bad thing? Lots of people argue different ways on that. But it is, at this point in time, it doesn't matter. So what is it all about? Killing each other, shooting each other, having fun, making some money while you do it. And then some people see it as just a complete ISK faucet. Or not necessarily an ISK, an LP faucet, which is actually a ISK sink to a certain degree, actually. But because you have to spend ISK in order to get a lot of the items. So it actually takes ISK out of the game to bring in items into the game.
Right.
So there's some interesting things about that, but my main thing is I like you get to make some money while you get to PvP, and I think that it takes a lot into account that I like the mechanics of you can't Sino in on an open.
Yeah.
You can't warp in on an open. You can't warp in on the outside. You can't warp in on the inside. You have to strategically understand what's going on in these like bubble environments. That really I've used, like, I love the mechanics, and one of the things that I like about, and it's interesting because as 0.0 group coming into LowSec, this is one of the big things. I've been in a lot of 0.0 groups, and the big things that we always hear about is that they just don't understand the mechanics of LowSec. They don't understand the mechanics of, I can't light a Sino at an open.
Right.
Why not? What is that? Like, why wouldn't I be able to light a Sino?
Yeah.
Like, why can't I warp right in on top of somebody
Yeah.
in a dead zone? Why is the gate gun shooting me? I don't understand. Like,
I mean, I can't shoot everybody.
yeah, there's so much that kind of goes into that kind of aspect. Is that something that you're found yourself being fairly familiarized with, or is that something you're still learning about the different aspects of LowSec compared to
I mean,
0.0?
at this,
It
I
sounds
mean,
like you've
obviously,
had some experience.
yeah, I mean, I haven't been playing the game super long. April of last year is really, but yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm pretty familiar now. I mean, I don't think there's much that I'm not aware of with LowSec at this point. I'm not afraid to shoot at anybody, but I know at least not to do it at the gates.
Depending on what you got.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be right. I may not be as worried in my Typhoon as I am in a Kestrel.
But then you've got
yeah.
the war deck aspect, which kind of negates some of that, which is really nice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. You had asked, do I prefer gate camps or roams? I personally prefer roams, but I know Como loves a good gate camp. And so that's what, when he's all hanging out with the boys and we're sitting in one of our systems, it's a gate camp for sure. And it's funny because they don't they don't give a fuck if the person once the person crosses into LowSec, if they're flashing orange, the guys don't give a shit if it's blue or not. They're blasting, and it's funny. It's a good time. But yeah, I mean, I there's the jump to Sino in things all the time does drive me a little wild about nullsec. I mean, I know it's a power thing, and that's cool. You can do it, so why not? If you got all these dreads, why not use them? But at the same time, like, I've been on the other side of it, right? Where it's like me and four cruisers go into, wherever, Fountain or Delve or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, you see an Arazu, and it's like, we gotta bounce now. Like, we gotta leave, because I know what's on the other side of that.
Yeah, one of the things that I find interesting about LowSec when it comes to that, though, is that even big players are scared. I mean, Goonswarm was terrified. One, because they didn't understand the mechanics, but two, they knew there was snuff out there. that can
Yeah.
drop 5 Titans, 25 dreads that are a billion each, with another 150 dreads if they really need it, that
Right.
are all basic fit or a little bit blingy fit, that'll just wipe out anything that you thought you could bring, unless it's leaked out and you're like, okay, we're bringing 300 dreads. It's like,
Right,
okay,
right.
yeah, then everybody knows you brought 300 dreads. So
Yeah.
now you can't drop 300 dreads because once again, but then it's a game of all these different things of who is on, what's going on, when's going on. I just saw it drop an insane amount of dreads onto Snuff and Nervikike and Gate Security Commission or whatever. We initiated that fight on Wednesday night.
I think I was there. That was
when they dropped the Zerns and everything, and there was
I think so. I was in a Munin. If that was the one with the Munin
yeah,
fleet.
I think Munins were involved in that for sure from inside for a while. We kicked it off where we caught a Nervikaiken bait widow, and they dropped it in a bunch of faxes to save it, and then they brought in more Titans, and then we were teamed up with the Keldari that night, and dreads just started getting dropped, and then Shadow Cartel came in, and then we had Int come in along with Sedition came in, but nobody was willing to drop a whole bunch of Titans or dreads or anything on it at that point in time, so everybody was just holding it down. Crazy shit, just people popping all over the place, a couple of dreads going down here and there. I think there was a total of 6 or 7 that went down before there was the real fight that came out when the Zerns got dropped, and it dropped an insane amount of dreads finally got moved in, but that was a 5-6 hour fight, so that changes up the fighting mechanic with no tie-dye. Just 5
I think I went to bed too.
If it was the one that was
if it was one that was later on in the evening, I think I eventually just went to bed.
Yeah, this started at beyond midnight Eve time, 1 or 2 o'clock Eve time.
Yeah, I was like, I can't. I just docked up somewhere and just went to sleep and flew the Munin back later. But yeah, I mean, I was there in comms when they were like, oh, we're like, we're not breaking them, but I can't get the SRP for the dread. So if you bring it, it might not get refunded, but people were like, fuck it, let's go. You know what I mean?
Cav kind of points out an interesting thing here. It says, you don't think, or you'd think someone as large as Goons, if they don't understand FW, for example, would ask for a large group to form and go learn. But the thing is that Eve, there's a whole bunch of stuff to do in Eve. That's just anything in Eve. Understanding the mechanics of LowSec doesn't help Goons as an organizational thought structure. Now maybe that changes depending as you get bigger. People, there's a SIG for that for sure, but that SIG doesn't have access to the insane amount of Titans and dreads and resources of the entire coalition. They might at some point, if it becomes a strategical thing, hours, weeks, structures coming out of Reinforce. There's all these. Everything comes into play on that, and that's where you look on, and Eve is played on a much higher level of, it's more like Stellaris than it is like Eve Online. You're not playing a first person, you're not playing a ship anymore. You're playing a person who understands that I have hundreds, possibly thousands of ships under my control. I need them to be positioned. I need them to be manned. I need the people to be online, ready. I need that information not to leak out to the enemy. And if it does leak out to the enemy, how do I use that to my advantage? How do I know if I get large enough? How do I use all of these things to my advantage to set things proper so that when I drop a trillion ISK on the ground, do I get at least fun out of it? If not a complete and utter domination of the field. And so it's an interesting there's a lot better resources being spent on how to build up and control and handle things and do things in 0.0 as fleet commanders, and to concentrate on activities and things to do in 0.0 than to come down and do things in faction warfare to a certain extent. but once again, you'll have, like, for example, you said your int is faction warfare SIG, basically a group of people who come down and does faction warfare activities, and you possibly do have access to dread resources, but you guys aren't throwing around dreads on a daily basis, right?
No, I mean it's kind of the faction warfare. I'm trying to think because I haven't really done much within it since I've been back, but I know that there's like a SIG. I want to say for each within the alliance for each faction.
Oh, really?
And now how active they are, I don't know. I had asked somebody in the group, and he said that like the Caldari one, there's like 10 dudes, and nobody really says anything. So I mean that faction warfare is kind of on your own thing. Now as a corp, they decided, and I came along that it was something they wanted to do, and part of it for me, because I kept in touch with all of them once I left, or a couple Como and a couple other guys, and like my best buddy in real life is still with them, so I talk to him all the time, but telling them like, oh, we got in these, I'm getting in all these fun fights. And Como, he's a player. Like he runs the corp, but he's a player and he just wants fights. And so I think that started to get the wheels turning, with them, as far as like, let's get the guys into faction warfare and do something different. Because, they're looking, I don't know. I haven't seen much as far as like in it as an alliance doing stuff. I'm not in any SIGs anymore, so I don't know how active they are. From what I understand, like, and it may be the same with goons too, is like the SIGs really, like, that's where the content is, I think, like beyond like the big tie-dye fights. And I mean that may be part of the reason why goons like don't come learn low sec, is because there's so much to do, especially like the Imperium. I mean it's more than just goons. They got whoever else is still in it, Dracarys.
I know that since enlistment, because I was a part of that information of what I stated specifically came before enlistment.
Yeah.
Now that enlistment exists, there is a much higher reason, at least on an individual or corporation, even possibly an alliance level. But I don't really see it as I haven't seen. I see that goons and all the other Pam Fam, all of them have their group set, but that's not like they haven't like had any focus on that. There's a group of people who have either figured out how to make money or figured out how to murder, or whatever. And so now it's a lot easier for them to get involved. When the decree of what I knew from Goon Swarm of don't fuck with low sec came specifically during the time period where like you couldn't enlist, and then just don't fucking go there. Like why did you lose $1.5 billion is worth of anything? It doesn't matter. You brought 150 people out to low sec and you just got your asses handed to you. Well, you're not getting SRP.
Yeah, we're not paying for this.
Yeah, you were just dumb.
yeah, it's I mean, with enlistment now, like the alliance
is huge. Like it's awesome. I'm really happy that they did that. Although it is kind of really interesting to kind of see how that affected everything. It is not as much as I thought it would. Like there's not a huge, like there is influence for sure. That it came really strong. I guess one of the big things is that enlistment came, and then shortly after that came the pirate faction. And so, and I'm also Galente. So I also will say that I have this also from a slant. None of the big groups are coming to us and being like, yes, let's be part of the Galente and help them with their fight for freedom. Like they're all looking at us and go, Moros Navy issue? I mean, maybe we need one, but I would like,
the E&Is. We're just here for the E&Is.
We're just, well, yeah, now that got nerfed into the ground, and you can get E&Is anywhere, like, because because it's such a popular ship, like, people just like it, they're making them out the wazoo. But the Galente have always been the underdog and everything, but we haven't seen much of an influence from that. There's but I have seen a big influence, I think, on pirate factions, is what I've kind of seen. Caldari are kind of helped out by this as well to a certain degree, but it doesn't seem to, like, it helps their farmers. There's a lot of farming that's being done, and less of, like, we're an organized group, come to fight PvP and faction warfare. So it's really interesting that your group is actually the opposite of what I've seen from most faction warfare interactions from enlistment, which is that enlistment allowed for farming to be done by a bunch of 0.0 people, but you're doing it in a different way. You're allowing it to make it so that you can PvP in Gothikk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they wanted. That's what I wanted. It's just a PvP. That's all. I mean, some of the guys are out there, and just sitting on plexes and just to get. But I mean, as a whole, I would say that we all, because not everybody in the corp is enlisted, but everybody who has, I mean, PvP is what we're looking for. Whether that's a gate camp or, it's me out roaming. Yeah, I mean, PvP is why they join. I mean, the guys, I don't know, I don't even think that we've figured out like an LP buyback yet for the corp. Like, it's just like, if you want LP, get it, but we're here to go get in some fights.
Awesome. Yeah. So, is there any specific like projects that you're currently working on? Anything that a website or any kind of, how do we get in touch with you? Or is there any recruitment that you're trying to do for this activity? How
I mean,
how can we get in touch with you?
You can just get in touch with me in game, Gothikk Urxy, and I mean, I don't really have a project, but I would just say like, especially like if you're in nullsec and you're in a block and like you're bored or tired of waiting on pings, just go enlist in a faction, man, because there's the more people in it, like in faction warfare, the more people there are to fight, and it's a whole different way to play the game, especially if you're used to like just doing the approach and F1 thing. Like it's a lot of fun figuring out how to actually like fly your ship. I mean, I know I'm a newer player, so maybe I'm playing catch up compared to most people, but it was really cool when I finally like got out of broke the chains of nullsec and went to join the smaller groups and just figured out how to fly a little better. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. We just got a huge raid, 63 people. Zyth, thank you so much for the raid. So we are interviewing Gothikk right now. We were, kind of coming towards the end of our story that, so definitely check it out. We have that all recorded, but, a lot of it was, picking up from my understanding, picking up Eve, checking it out. I don't know, a few times until like you really got into it. Then you were looking at the different kind of things that were out there, and faction warfare seems like it's one of those things that really kind of you latched onto, and you're kind of pushing. And you talked about before. Can you tell us, and especially the new viewers that are here, like what is the group that you're kind of working with, and what are you doing in faction warfare?
Yeah, so I'm with my corp, Applied Anarchy, who are in it, but they wanted to do something different. They wanted to do faction warfare, and I had left the corp, so they had reeled me back because they're a bunch of good dudes to come fly with them in faction warfare. As far as me, I'm with Garistas, they're with Caldari, so it looks like Galente is the mutual target we got going on here. But yeah, I mean that's really it. We're just nullsec dudes trying to do something different.
Awesome. And is this something that you guys are open to recruitment, or are you guys not recruiting at this time?
Right. I'm sure we're recruiting. Don't I don't I don't know.
You on
but
that?
Don't quote me on it. But I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody.
But if you join up with Garistas, and are you able to interact with you if they're part of the militia?
Yeah.
Or you're tied in with a lot of militia activity that's going on currently.
I'm always in lowsec. So yeah, and I'm always down to fly with anybody. I don't care if you're in Brat or the enemies of the lower half of the map. I don't buy into any of that. I don't care. I'll fly with anybody and shoot at anybody. It doesn't matter to me.
Awesome. Is there anything that you want to talk about that's outside of EVE Online? Any other like projects, any things that you kind of work on, or any other passions that you have?
No, I mean nothing really. I'm a dad, so my time is to my kids. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on and going throughout the history of Gothic, and it's really cool to kind of hear. I'm glad that you're in faction warfare and jumping over, and initiative has like a good push coming in to and the focus is not how can we make money off of this, but
Right.
the how can we get into PvP. Have you had any like major epic battles that you'd like to recount that has happened, or not even necessarily like large in number, but just stands out in your mind of any cool combat scenarios that you've been in recently, or even
Uh,
going back?
I mean, when I was with Meta, it was always fun. I don't know, like Minmill, what's his face said that we outnumbered them, but you know, just going out with like 7 guys and just being able to hold them against the blob for as long as you could on either side. That was always fun. I think my favorite, we went out with like six, I want to say like 6 retributions and just took a filament out to somewhere in Null and caught this dude in a golem. Uh, he was ratting or something, and we managed to take him out. And 6 frigates against a marauder was. I love it when a marauder dies because I hate those ships. But that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Cool. And is there any shout outs that you'd like to give? Any mentors that you've had along the way? Your mom and dad, I'm sure they're watching this, your
Of
boss,
course.
is there
Yeah, my boss.
anybody in your life, people that brought you into EVE Online, just any general shout outs that you want to give?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a shout out to Como and the dudes at Applied Anarchy for sure, and as well as the guys at the Meta Reloaded, CO especially because he was the guy who really taught me a lot of the things that I know now on how to play. So definitely shout out to those guys.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. One of the things that we were just talking about just before we got on, though, and I just kind of want to pick this up with you and try to pick your brain here real quick, was that you said that you didn't understand Mage the Ascension.
Yeah, no,
Um,
for sure, no way.
so one thing that I kind of the thing that I think throws off most people is the idea of what are you capable of doing, and according to rule sets,
Hmm.
and then why am I limited from not being able to do that? And the you're limited by your paradigm on not just like how you do stuff, but like what you can do. And I was talking about how you can kind of take mage and put it into any scenario, but it always comes down to paradigm.
Hmm.
So, for example, are you familiar with John Wick?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so the Wick series, it is John Wick could have by if you put him into a character sheet and gave him all fives in all of the spheres. So each sphere controls like a different power in reality, like forces, spirits, mind, um, life, all these different, correspondence, entropy. These are different aspects of the universe that you get to learn how to control. So 1 through 5. At 5, you know everything. At 1, you can do like you can sense things. 2, you can do some minor manipulation. 3, you can do some like pretty solid, like you can start throwing lightning bolts and shit like
yeah,
that. But like John Wick can't throw a lightning bolt, no matter what he has in any of his stats. Because John Wick
right,
doesn't believe he can throw a fucking lightning bolt. Like that's not with that. Like no matter how powerful now he might be able to like if you just throw every punch, no matter how fast or strong you are, like maybe John Wick just moves a little bit faster because like because
right,
that's what John Wick does. Like is he gonna beat you to fist fight 1-on-1 or sword fight? Yeah, probably. Like even though especially depending on stats and stuff like that all makes sense. He's mastery of these kind of things. Can maybe he even slow down his heartbeat so that he seems like he's dead? Like is that something that would be within his realm of paradigm? Yeah, that all makes sense. But is he going to be hopping on clouds? No. John Wick would never believe he could hop on a cloud, no matter how powerful he is in mage. And then there's of course like the setting kind of thing of the technocracy, which I don't know how much you're familiar with that aspect of the world of darkness.
Not my. I mean, the only World of Darkness I played was was just the Blue Book World of Darkness, and then I've done some Changeling and Vampire.
Okay. So yeah, and those are all and those are the ones that I think are the pretty standard base for what Changeling is probably the one that's the most unique out of the group that you had. My games
Yep.
were always werewolf. Well, of course, Cam Garou, of course, would be oh werewolf friend here, but awesome. Well, it's been really awesome talking to you, and really awesome kind of bringing you on the show here. Um, I hope that you have a great weekend, and I hope to see you out on the battlefield.
Yeah. Well, hey man, the insurgency's in Hades, right? So I'm sure you'll see me around.
We'll be there, man.
All right, man. It was good talking to you.
Have a great one. And
too.
thank you all for watching and listening, and have a great night.
Geo 6 is here. Yeah, it's winter space. Yo. Is that frozen full out in the flesh? What's up? What's up? How we doing? Welcome in, Raiders. What's going on? We were just in the middle of trying our best to dissect an Astarte gate camp with a Demos. We killed one of their tackle and now we're leaving because they started bringing out Hugans and stuff. Not fun. I'm done with my interview with Gothikk. Nice. How'd it go? Hell yeah, dude. Everyone, if you don't already,